Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Child Psych Podcast. My name is Tammy Schamuhn, and I am the co-founder of the Institute of Child Psychology. I'm a registered psychologist, a registered play therapist, and most importantly, I'm a mom to 3 incredible kids. And today we have with us a mentor of mine. She's a former supervisor of mine. I did training with her. This is Sue McIntosh, who is the founder and lead counselor and trainer at Healing Hooves, an animal-assisted therapy program in Cremona, Alberta, where we're going to talk about her work with horses and also children in mental health. So welcome, Sue, to our program.
Thank you, Tammy. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah. So everyone, just like we've said before, if you like what the Institute, the Child Psych Podcast, is creating, please go to your nearest and dearest podcast provider and give us a review. And if you want the bonus content from this episode, you can go down to the description of this podcast episode and you can subscribe to us on Patreon. So I'm just going to give Sue a little introduction and we'll talk about kind of my experience of her amazing work and the training, and we'll talk about what her clinical work looks like. And then people can also look her up and look up her program and her books that she's written for kids, which are incredible. And then if you're really interested in working with horses, she does the trainings in Canada and I think in Scotland now, but we can.
Yeah, across Canada now. We're going to Nova Scotia this summer, so for the first time. So we're excited about that. And then, yes, Scotland.
Beautiful. So Sue is a certified Canadian counselor with a master's degree in counseling. She has additional training in animal-assisted therapy, equine therapy, equine facilitated wellness, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, that's EMDR, emotionally focused therapy, attachment and developmental psychology with Dr. Gordon Neufeld. She has a lifetime experience working with horses, including training, competing, and coaching. She has many levels. I'm not going to list them all, but she knows her stuff and she's got amazing horses. She's very active in leading the Canadian professional bodies, developing industry standards for training and practicing equine facilitated wellness and AAT. She's presented actually at our conferences for us before. She does a lot of presentations with EFW and her own model. I know she's big. She's been promoting some equine neuroscience stuff, which is really interesting. I hope to take that soon if I could line up my darn calendar. And she's a certified parenting educator and practitioner with the Neufeld Institute. And Sue has actually who got me into the Neufeld kind of attachment paradigm, which Tanya and I integrated into the Institute, well, not long after I first started training with you. So that kind of got us
quite some time ago.
Yes. But we've brought Neufeld in many, many, many times to teach for us. So most people who are part of our membership have taken his attachment courses as part of that. So okay, Sue, I can't remember, probably because I was pregnant during our trainings, how you got into this. I think you trained with Eileen, but that's a colleague of ours. But, what's the story here? How did you land into this?
Yeah, so it was the other way around. Eileen was at one of the very first trainings that I hosted, 2000. So 25 years ago, long time ago. And how did I get into this? I mean, I've always had horses in my life. Horses and animals have always been a huge part of my life. And I think a part of my wellness as well. I mean, when I was a teenager, I don't think I actually knew what counselling was, north of Scotland, long time ago. But my horse was, he was the one that I would go to and cry with and feel my feelings and felt safe with. So they've always been a huge part of my life, and I've always wanted to work in a field where I feel like I'm making a difference and helping people. I started off in a completely different field and didn't thrive. And so it just made sense to me to bring it together. So that was back in the 90s, in the world before Google. And, initially I was like, oh, I've invented this. And as many of us do when we initially do this. And yeah, just started slow, working actually in the UK and the US and trying to find other like-minded people. And then it just grew from there. So yeah, I think really I love animals, love horses, and have always found them healing and just wanted to share that with people. So just went about gradually getting the education and the training, which was harder then because there wasn't that many people doing it, but gradually built it over time and love it.
Yeah, it's such a dynamic field that is expanding, I think, very, very quickly. I know I do training in AAT. I provide it, and it started, I always send people, if you want to specialize in horses, go to Sue. I do a little bit of everything. I spend actually half my time with dogs more than horses, but I have horses as part of my program too. But you're always my go-to in the equine world. And I know personally seen this as very transformative for kids, especially for kids from really hard places where traditional counseling has I don't want to say failed them, but it's just not landing. They're not feeling safe talking to adults, period, let alone a counselor or a teacher, or even their parents. And the most resistant clients and the most traumatized clients often seem to benefit the most from this work. I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but...
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where, initially I would say that was 100% of our practice. We worked through social services. So we were working with kids. And I think, initially people, I wouldn't say they were suspicious of this work, but they were less familiar with it 25 years ago. And so I think for a while with children's services, in Calgary and in central Alberta, we were kind of like the last resort. We became a bit of the last resort, the kids who were not, just either wouldn't go or wouldn't engage or... for a while there was a counsellor in Calgary that kept firing her clients and they all came to me. So she was keeping me busy for a while. Yeah. But now I think we've expanded a little bit in terms of we work still with kids with extreme trauma, but not always with the most challenging ones as well. So it's more across the board now.
Yeah, I would say our practice here in Edmonton, like the Edmonton area, is a little bit of everything. Like it really lands with our kiddos who are often in child and family services, adoptive care, those pieces. But we see it being used for divorce, separation, like grief and loss, ADHD, parent challenges, with kiddos and doing work with parents and kids, depression,
I love doing
anxiety.
Parenting work. Yeah, parenting work is something that I remember early days, I was very focused on working with teenagers and the kids, and the parents would just drop the child off. And, that's when I was first doing the work with Gordon Neufeld and the attachment pieces. And I gradually started to realize that if you're going to do attachment work, you have to work with an attachment. And yes, the horses can create the safety for that to explore relationships and to start building relationship skills and just create safety within relationship, because horses are relational animals and with you. But in terms of securing the child's long-term wellness, they're not going to be coming and seeing you forever. They're not. Very rarely. I once gave a client a horse, but that's a very rare occasion, a very unique situation. So yes, if we can support caregivers, sometimes it's parents, sometimes it's grandparents, sometimes it's foster parents, sometimes it's teachers. But if we can support caregivers and work with them as well, and we can do that through the horses too. So, or joint sessions. I'm loving doing joint sessions now. If I can, I don't know, I think my favorite sort of it changes over time, but right now, if I can work with kids sort of, that 5 to 10 age range with a parent present and do joint sessions with them, it can be so powerful.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I really encourage clinicians to work with parents. That's part of the training that we do at the Institute, right? That's our key demographic there. Okay, so let's help paint a picture, okay, for our audience. When people hear, especially equine-assisted, I think animal-assisted, they think often like a service dog or,
right.
They're going in and doing like pet therapy, or they think seniors' homes. A cat. I have one too. He's actually just sleeping over there. And we utilize our partner with sentient beings, partner with cats in our program. We have 7 of them actually.
Oh,
but yes, they're very popular actually with kids. But let's help paint a picture, because I think people kind of have an idea, or they're like, oh, it's therapeutic riding. They think when it's equine, and I'm always like, not really. So let's help people understand what this might look like if they were to,
sure,
train in it, or, send their child or look for a therapist who specializes in equine therapy.
Yeah, and this is not going to be a helpful answer at first, but it really depends on the age of the child. It depends on, safety is paramount with us in terms of keeping everyone physically and emotionally safe. I am a riding coach, and I actually used to I used to teach for the therapeutic riding program. So I'm not a therapeutic riding coach. So we are definitely not therapeutic riding, because you need some specialized equipment and training on horses for that. Some of my clients do occasionally ride because I've got the coaching side, but very rarely, very, very rarely. And early days, we used to have fairly active sessions, sort of doing fairly active things with horses in terms of moving horses around and getting horses to follow you and taking horses through obstacle courses. We have over the last, I maybe did that sort of work for about 5 years. And then I discovered that there was no need for it. And it's kind of what people initially, once they get past the, this isn't about therapeutic riding or isn't about teaching you to ride, then they immediately think, we're going to be getting a horse going through an obstacle course with a pool noodle or something like that. That's what a lot of people think this work is about. And I started to, my horses told me they didn't like that type of work. they didn't like, not that we use poop noodles, but they didn't like the exercise-based work. And we started to move more and more and more into very slow relational. Sorry, I have a very fuzzy cat on my knee, and I'm getting cat hairs in my nose, in my eyes, in my mouth, everywhere. He's very generous sharing. So if someone was watching our work, it doesn't look like much. One of my coaches once said that training a horse should look like watching paint dry. It should be the most boring thing to watch, but long term, the results can be astounding. And I'm finding it's the same, or I've found, the last 20 years, it's become more and more like this, that the work is slow and gentle. So sometimes it's simply hanging out with the horses. One of our favorite things to do is get a grooming kit, go out in the herd, and we always do some sort of regulating, grounding type exercise. We just call it getting on horse time. I've got so many clients that have never willingly participated in mindfulness or grounding or anything like that. But if we say we're going to get onto horse time, we need to kind of leave some of those worries behind, or leave some of the busyness in our head, or we need to be more aware of what is going on in our body and around us, and just be like a horse. And very few people resist that. And so we do something that just gets us on horse time, and then go out and hang out with the horses. So it might be brushing the horses. It might be just being near the horses. Often my horses, especially, we've got 2 donkeys and, cat leaving and hair flying. We've got 2 donkeys and they love to interact. So when the horse or the donkey approaches the client and comes and leans in, and there's lots of snuggling happens, it can be really powerful. Sometimes the horses get too close, and then we can do some boundary work and ask them to back away. So, occasionally we will actually put a halter on a horse and do a little bit of leading and going for some walks with the horses. But it's mainly just gentle, slow, relational work. And then for some clients, that opens up into conversation, and they start to talk about what they're feeling in the moment and where they felt that before or not felt that before. And with other clients, they just talk about what they're experiencing or noticing with the horses. And some other clients just want to be with. And it's just finding a different place in their nervous system that they haven't experienced before. I don't know if it might be a little bit too of a vague, wishy-washy answer. It's hard to put into words, really, because it's very client specific. You'd mentioned the stories before. We often do integrate the stories about into sessions, because many of the stories have initially been written for a specific client situation, and they feature our horses, and then we share them with that client, and then we usually find that other people will benefit from them as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, I know in my own clinical work with animals, and when I train other people in this, we always are looking for first a way to tell a story with an animal, which then invites the client to either share their experiences or just feel seen by the animals, that animal might struggle with a similar thing, which normalizes their struggle. And they really care about these animals.
Absolutely. It gives you a way to talk about things and normalize things, and to, do some psychoed and teach things. And as you say, normalize without putting the spotlight on the client. We have a pony who's very aptly named. He's called Pickle. You'll remember Pickle. I think he was here the last time that you were here. And, Pickle gets in a pickle. He's sensitive. He didn't have the quietest start in life. We got him when he was 7. And he has big feelings. And, when he's nervous, he chews his rope. So we can do a lot of work around, why do we have this ratty old rope that we use with Pickle? Because chewing the rope soothes him. We're not going to allow him to chew on our arm or chew a brand new leather saddle or chew the client's new jacket. So we can do some boundary work in there, but we can for sure make room for the fact that Pickle has some big feelings and that they need to move. And these are concepts that I'm trying to share with clients, with kids, with parents, that going at those directly can be really, really hard, but we can just do it through Pickle, and we do it in the moment because it's real. We're not making it up. It's real.
That they have these struggles. Like, we have goats are quite interesting. We have orphan goats that have all been bottle fed on our ranch, and they can be very neurotic. They've been kind of through the adoptive care system, and they don't always have the social skills other animals do because the way they started off in life isn't typical goat behavior. So they will act a little different compared to a regular goat that you would expect. And just seeing the behaviors that might seem a little odd, and we can talk about when our feelings get big, or sometimes when we've been through really hard times, we learn certain things in order to adjust, to fit in, or to cope with what's going on. And kids they feel that they've been through similar losses, or been in the foster care system, or in a classroom where they don't quite fit in, whatever that is. And they just feel like, I guess they feel like they have a place where they belong and seen, in that moment. And they know that they're not alone in this. And that's what's really important. And also you mentioned the nervous system piece, which is really interesting. Like, you're doing mindfulness to get clients grounded before they walk into a session. So in their bodies and not up in their heads. But what do you think else is going on in their nervous system in these sessions that's different from traditional counseling? How do the animals help with that?
Yeah, and that's a key question, and it's something that there's a lot more research happening in terms of the human-animal connection. I would say it really depends on how it's being facilitated, and that's where, whoever's doing the work, having the relationship with the animals they're working with, and choosing the right animals and setting things up in the right way can make a difference. Because if you were to put someone who didn't know much about horses, an environment with a lot of big horses who were moving around a lot, you could really upset the nervous system, understandably. Or vice versa, if you were to put a client who wasn't ready in with some horses, it could really upset the nervous system of the horses. But if it's facilitated and set up in I hate to use the words right and wrong, but in an informed way that's sensitive and informed by everyone's nervous system, horses and humans' nervous systems will co-regulate with each other. And we can co-dysregulate, I guess is what I was saying before. That would be a quicker way to say that. We want to make sure that we're co-regulating. And it means that the presence of the horse can actually help to regulate and calm the child's nervous system. And that's where whoever's facilitating is really key too, because, horses' nervous systems can go up and down really quickly. They have there's a lot in common, but there's also some differences because they're prey animals. They need to be able to react fast. And so if something happens, like if you're in an arena and all of a sudden there's a hailstorm, your horse is going to go up. Their nervous system is going to get triggered, and that could go sideways in everyone really, really quickly. So this is where, we can co-regulate. So we can co-regulate for the horse and then for the client. But I do, this HeartMath is a place where there's been a bunch of research specifically looking at horses and people. And I think I think the science is catching up on what, those of us like yourself as well, who've been doing this work for a long time, have felt and experienced for years. The science is catching up to show actually, there's a really solid scientific basis for that, and research that is showing what's happening and why.
Yeah. And I think the key, what you mentioned, was having an animal that's regulated, and as much as you can with a horse. Like, there is obviously a back and forth that happens, but if I, as this therapist, am fairly calm and the horse knows me really well, and I'm breathing slowly and I'm in my body, and so I'm kind of already regulating their nervous system. They're already feeling my energy, and I'm one of the leaders, so they are kind of feeding off of me. We know in that situation where the animal feels safe, that's the key. The animal feels safe. So you have a calm animal with a child or an adult that we see a reduction in muscle tension. We have oxytocin, which is a bonding chemical, makes people feel loved and safe. Their heart rate goes down, their blood pressure goes down. The immune system starts working better. We get serotonin levels going up, dopamine goes up. Like, there's all these regulating neurochemicals that start to really change our physiology and adjust our physiology. But the key is the animal has to be calm for this to work. And so that's what you're mentioning.
Yeah.
Is ensuring that horses feel somewhat safe.
Yeah. I would say that, when things don't work as well, though, so, when something does happen, you could have set everything up perfectly and you have a calm day, and then something triggers, maybe two of those cats decide to have an argument in the hayloft or something like that. And you would never design that. You would never plan that. You would never make that your session plan. But sometimes these things happen, and those can be amazingly therapeutic moments, because you can talk about how emotion has to move. We're not going to say to the horse, stand still and get to the green zone, do it now. We're going to say, you know what? Pickle's got some big feelings right now, or Thor's got some big feelings right now. He's scared. Look at him. His eyes are big and he's shaking. And we're going to let him move. We're going to take him for a walk. And it can be such an amazing place for making space for emotion, to normalize, to say, yeah, we get all these changes in our body. It's normal. It's natural. A stress response, is actually healthy.
Yeah. And it also, when animals have conflict, like that's the other thing, these groups, we have groups of animals here. We rarely have singular animals on our farm. So the goats live in a group, the horses live in a group, the cats live in a group. And regular conflict occurs. This is just something that you would expect to see in a family. You see this in groups of people. And that is something, it's such a platform to see how the clients view that, like to listen to how they see a disruption in relationships, which tells us like the heart of maybe what's going on for them. If they see one horse nip at another one, because really they're just arguing over who gets to go to food first, which is very normal herd behavior. But one client might see that as, they're just trying to figure out who's the boss, versus one might be like, he's being violent, like he's bullying him, he's hurting him. And so, that just gives us some idea of how they experience conflict in their lives, like how they view that as a threat, or is it normal? It's just like my brother and I, we fight over toys all the time. Like, again, that as a therapist arms me with information I wouldn't have otherwise about how they see the world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, their interpretations of situations with the horses can be very, very helpful to work with and to understand, for sure.
Yeah. I think before we go into the bonus content here, I want, just as much, I know it's Neufeld stuff, it's hard to get it into summarize it in 5 minutes, but we're going to try our best. I know you delved very deep into attachment science and the research on the developmental paradigm, but can you fill in our audience a little bit on how attachment plays an integral part in your clinical work with horses? We can use Neufeld's work as best we can without going too deep into it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it is so deeply embedded. It's hard to, I just can't imagine life without it. It's how I raise my kids. It's how I live my life. And it's how I know early days, I started training with Gordon when my daughters were 4 and 2. And as I was saying, they're 22 and 20 now. I was like, oh gosh, how did that happen? I have been training with Gordon since my girls were 4 and 2, and they're now 22 and 20. So it's been a long time. And so as a result, everything I do in terms of how we work with the horses, how I raise my kids, has been grounded in his attachment work. And if we think of attachment really as just being the science of relationship, it makes sense because everything is relational. Horses are relational. And they want to be with each other. They're herd animals. Their safety, just as with humans, attachment is our preeminent need. It comes before everything else. Securing attachments comes before, our body's priority to digest food or to find food. And it's the same with the horses. So it influences how I care for my horses, influences how I train my horses, and then it influences every aspect of the session. So sometimes it's as you were saying before, we can just by listening to a client or observing a client with the horses, we can gain a lot of understanding about their attachment experience and their attachment health. So it can almost be a bit of a mini assessment tool in a way, I guess. But then we can meet them where they're at and invite that connection with the horse, which is creating a safe attachment for them, and start to work on some of their attachment wounds. So a big one would be significance, in terms of, that's one of the key roots that Gordon talks about in his 6 levels of attachment. And significance is often where people get stuck in terms of, they'll have the initial early roots, but they don't go deeper than that. And it can lead to all sorts of relational problems, all sorts of challenging behavior and lack of growth. And with the animals, clients experience that feeling of significance. If they've been here before and they come into our yard and my donkey's Eeyore at them and my cat jumps in the car and my dog can't wait to see them, you can't train an animal. Well, I don't think you can train an animal to do that. They do that. It's genuine. They believe it. And it's the unconditional positive regard that Carl Rogers used to talk about. Gordon calls it inviting me to exist in your presence just the way you are. And you feel special. And the kids are, I can be excited to meet them, and I'm genuinely excited, but they're going to, so often with these kids, they'll be like, yeah, but you're paid to see me and you're just saying that.
Or you're going to leave. You're going to leave.
Whereas with the animals, it's like, it's real and they want to see them. And you see kids just brighten up. And the amount of times I've had them say, they like me. This horse likes me. They're following me. They want to be with me. And that feeds that huge underlying need within all of us to know that we matter, which is a core attachment root. And
without the other big, like you said, conditions on it, that I have to behave a certain way, I have to feel a certain way, I have to act a certain way, I have to be good at something, I have to be a star athlete or get good grades. There's no conditions.
The horses don't care about any of that. They meet you for who you are in that moment. They forgive. They're just genuine in the moment. And again, I mean, it depends on how you set things up. There are not all equine environments that are like that, but horses make it easy on us and all animals to set up an environment that is so conducive to that. And clients, I find, can believe it and receive it in a way that is really hard for them to do with people. My goal is always then to start to transfer it to people, not to just leave it. I mean, it's super powerful to have a healthy attachment with an animal, but the children we want them to have a healthy attachment with us too as their service providers, but we really want them to build this into a healthy attachment with a caregiver that's going to be there.
That's the bridging that Gordon taught. Bridging that attachment is an integral part of any therapy, is to improve that relationship with the other adults. But they first maybe have experienced it with the horse or the dog or whatever animal that we're partnering with as part of the process, allows that client to feel it very deeply. But now,
and their defenses are less likely to be up. We were talking about challenging clients at first. With so many kids who've been wounded and hurt and experienced trauma, and the last thing they want to do is see another professional, their defenses are going to be right here for good reason, in terms of, if I let people close, they're going to hurt me, and they don't want to be vulnerable, understandably. So I really like to honor those defenses. I don't go too fast at taking those defenses down. They need them. But I find with the horses, the defenses are less, which makes it a huge responsibility for us. And they start to melt them in a way that is safe and slow and gentle. And gradually, we have to respect it. But gradually, I find we can lead into healthy relationships with people.
I call that thawing my kids out. There's a lot of kids who come out here need to be thawed out, because they just they're very stuck in a lot of ways, very frozen in terms of their ability to be authentic and to connect and to reach out and to be vulnerable. But they have to experience safety first. They have to see it. They have to feel it. They have to be in that moment where they experience that unconditional love from that animal and acceptance. And then they start to believe they're worthy of it. That is this next part. They have to feel that way, so then they can be authentic in their other relationships. So, Sue, if people want to work with you to train with horses, like I always do, my training's very different because I bring in a lot of play therapy, and I bring in a lot of like other animals, dogs especially, and goats. Use a lot of that. But whenever somebody wants to work with horses exclusively, I'm like, go see Sue. She's your girl. Like I have used, she trained me, and I definitely bring in that work. But I also do a lot with other animals. We eat chickens and geese and cats, and it's like goat, sheep.
Oh,
so where can they come? They can come train with you in Cremona. Sometimes it's New Brunswick, Scotland.
Yeah, Nova Scotia. Well, our on-sites are in Alberta, so yeah, just northwest of Calgary. We've got some out in Truro in Nova Scotia this year, some in the north of Scotland in October, possibly in Edinburgh as well. Do a lot of online training as well, though.
Yes, you do. Your intro training is online.
It's now fully online. Our equine neuroscience course which is open to anyone. It's not just for people in this field. It's open to anybody who's interested. That's fully online as well. And we have some horsemanship for EFW. That's actually a hybrid. That's partly online, partly on site. But yeah, our website, which is super easy, it's healinghooves.ca. So pretty easy to find.
And we'll have that. Everyone can go see her. Like, it's in the description. Are your books for sale on your website? Because they're really good. I always let people know, like.
Yes. So actually, sorry, I'm saying yes. They're not for sale on the website. But if you email me.
Okay.
And you can find me through the website, the books are for sale. The other thing is my blog, tons of free resources. The books are free for the PDF versions. So we have the blog. If you just go to the Healing Who's website and then go into our blog, I've got tons of resources for parents that are totally free. And that includes the stories. We've got some on YouTube as well with the horses. I've got the horses reading it.
I didn't know that you had those on YouTube. I really like your books because the photography is really beautiful.
I'm lucky enough to be married to, a very experienced professional photographer. So he takes all my pictures.
They're really beautiful books. If you can get your hands on a physical copy, the photos are beautiful. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much, Sue, for being here and sharing this and mentoring me and really getting me, helping me fulfill my dreams to do equine-assisted and animal-assisted. You were an integral part of my journey. So thank you for that. If I haven't said that before, I'm going to say it again.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.